Hello peoples, let's go through some examples from GRE 503 linear graphs number 2. And we're going to start on 360 skills, going through letter B on the bottom here. And I'm going to demonstrate two ways to graph this. The personal way I would graph this is by using the x and y intercepts. And x and y intercepts allow us to use zeros for x and y in order to come up with coordinates to graph this. So for this one, my x value is 0 and I need to come up with a y value. The way I would do that is I would substitute in 0 for x. This 3 times 0 is going to be 0, and I would be left with negative 5y is equal to 15. And if I divide by negative 5 on both sides, that's going to give me a negative 3. Okay, if I substitute y as 0, I would plug in 0 for y, and I'm trying to figure out the x value. So 5 times 0 for y would be 0, and I can cover that up. I'm left with 3x equals a positive 15. I would divide by 3 on both sides, and I would end up with 5. And this is my coordinate then. I have coordinate of 0, negative 3, and this is 5, comma, 0. So let's graph those. 0, negative 3 is just going to be down 3. 5 up 0 is going to be like that, and there is going to be what my graph is going to look like for this one. Okay, another way I can graph this is by turning this into slope-intercept form. And it's really your choice. You just need to be able to graph any type of equation we give you. To do that, I'm going to turn this equation into y equals mx plus b, which means that I'm going to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides, and I'll be left with negative 5y is equal to 15 minus 3x. I then divide by negative 5. This guy goes away, and I'm left with y on this side, which is what I want. Now on this side, I have everything over this negative 5. To turn it into y equals mx plus b, I'm going to separate these terms out. So 15 divided by negative 5 would be negative 3. This negative is going to cancel, and it's going to give me a 3/5 x. And if I graph that, I should get the same thing. Y-intercept of negative 3, slope of 3/5, so I'd go up 3 over 5 in the positive direction, and I get the same graph. However you want to graph it is totally fine with me. All right, on to the back side. Let's do letter D and talk about dealing with this fraction. So first of all, I don't like how this equation looks, so I'm going to change how it looks by distributing this, and I'm going to turn this equation into y equals mx plus b. If you ever don't know how to graph an equation, that's the process I would go through. So when I distribute negative 2/3 times x is going to be negative 2/3 x. Negative times the positive, or negative times the negative is going to be a positive. And really this is 2/3 times 3. And if I do 2/3 times 3 over 1, I can see this is going to cross reduce, and I would end up with just a plain old 2. From there, I'd add 3 to both sides, and I'd get y is equal to negative 2/3 x plus 5, and I would start at positive 5 for my y-intercept. My slope is a negative 2/3, so I'd go down 2. I need to go the direction such that it's going to be negative, and there's my graph for that one. Okay, let's go down to number 3. In this one, it says, what is the equation of the line that runs through coordinates negative 4, 2, and 3, 2? So I'm going to try to make an equation that looks like y equals mx plus b. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the slope, and from 2 points, I can find the slope by just doing y2 minus y1, my slope formula. So it'll be 2 minus 2 over 3 minus negative 4, which is going to chippity chop, and I'll be left with 0 over 7. Now remember, 0 over 7 is 0, and that's okay. That tells me my slope is 0, and we know slope of 0 looks like that. From there, we can substitute in our 0, so we'd have y equals 0 times x plus b, but 0 times x is going to just be 0 no matter what. So really, it's going to be y is equal to whatever my y-intercept is. Or in this case, it looks like my y-intercept is going to be 2, because these are both 2, which means this goes straight across. If you did substitute an x and a y in, if I had 0 times, or 0x here, what I could do is substitute in a coordinate. Let's choose 3, 2. So I would get 2, 0 times 3 plus b. The 0 times 3 is going to be 0, so 2 is equal to my b. So my equation then ends up being y equals 0x plus 2. We don't need 0x, so it's just y is equal to 2. Down to number 4. So in a coordinate plane, which of the following are located on the graph of this? Now, one thing you could do is graph this line and see which of these fall on it. But a better way to do it is to simply substitute in the coordinates and see if it makes a true statement. So here's an x and a y. Let's substitute that 8 in for x. Let's substitute this 3 in for y. And so I'd end up with 3 times 8 is 24, minus 12 is 12, and 12 equals 12. So this coordinate does work. I'm going to let you check these coordinates and then determine which of these is going to make it true. Let's go down to the equation on the bottom. And for this one, we're relating equations, tables, and graphs all together in the same model. So I'm given an equation, and I'm going to go through how to figure out these coordinates. So the table really just lists coordinates. It's saying when y is 3, what is the value of x? So what I can do is I can simply substitute in 3 for y, and that'll leave me with an x to figure out. So let's do that. Let's take 3 and plug it in for y. So I'd have 3x times, or minus 2 times this 3 is equal to 12. And I would have 3x minus 6 equals 12. Let's add the 6, and I would get 3x is equal to 18. And divide by the 3, and the x is going to be a 6. So this coordinate right here is going to be a 6. Okay, let's figure out this one. And this one, I'm saying the x value is 0. Well, that's kind of like our x-intercepts. I can do that without really showing any work. So this would be 3 times 0, which is going to be 0, which means I'll have negative 2y equals 12. Divide by the negative 2, and I would get y is equal to negative 6. Okay, so that is all the problems from GRE 503 number 2. Go ahead and finish up the rest of those on your own, and good luck. Let your teacher know if you have any issues.